So after absolutely ruining all of your subscription feeds for the past 3 days, I think we've uploaded 102 Helios videos now, so I do apologize for that, but if you are still sticking around, I appreciate it. But I feel that it's finally time for a things I wish I knew earlier in Helios. First of all, I just really want to express how much fun I had just exploring and solving all of these puzzles. It's really been a breath of fresh air just in a time where games these days hold your hand like a lot, and this one does the complete opposite. You don't get a map, you don't get any markers, you don't really get told by the game directly where to go, you have to figure everything out in-world. Whether it be by talking to NPCs, finding clues around the map, it's just such a great experience if you're into that kind of thing. And especially in my case, I was fortunate enough to actually get the game a couple of days before the official release, so there was literally like no information anywhere about the game, so it was just me and a notebook trying to figure everything out, which took a while. It took a while, but we got there. And quite honestly, in these tips and tricks videos, I don't usually give my opinions about the games very often. That's just not really why most of you guys are here. But in this case, I did want to give it enough praise simply because of the fact that I do fear it's going to get slightly or massively overshadowed by sharing the same release date with the Hollow Knight sequel, Silksong. Which, don't get me wrong, I am massively hyped for Silksong 2, and there's going to be a bunch of Silksong videos on the channel too. But I do feel a bit bad for Helios as it's been such a great game and they've been working on it for so long. And now to have to share a release date with one of the most anticipated games of the year, it's kind of rough for them. So I definitely want to let you guys know this is an actual amazing game. With that said, I am specifying about the puzzles, solving, and exploration part of the game. It's absolutely amazing, 10 out of 10. However, the combat is something else entirely. I will admit the combat is a bit mediocre, let's call it. Honestly, after the first maybe 10 hours or so, I just decided to turn the combat difficulty all the way down to easy, turn the death penalty off. That way I could completely focus on the strong point of the game, which are the puzzles and the exploration, of course. Some people came into this game thinking it was going to be a bit of a Souls-like, and it could not be further from the truth. If you're here for the combat, definitely go a different direction. That's definitely not the strong point of this game. But anyway, that's enough rambling for now. Let's jump into some tips and tricks. The first thing you want to do, and you definitely should do, I highly recommend this, is going into your settings, and on the gameplay, you want to switch the datapad opening animation to short. The reason for this is pretty self-explanatory, but you're going to be getting out your datapad like a lot in this game. You need to do it to check your items, your loadout, your clues, literally everything, your exploration, your mysteries, just everything is through your datapad on this game. And having a stupidly long animation just to pull it out every single time is, I just don't understand why that would be the default. So definitely switch this to short to save you a bunch of time over the many hours you'll probably spend here. And now that we're in the menu, this is completely personal preference, but if you do want to switch death penalty off, that's down here too. That just makes it so you don't lose your shards and the enemies don't respawn every time you die or you fall off a cliff. And any other game I'd feel a bit bad for, like playing on easy mode, but honestly, like we said, the combat's really not the main focus of this game, so I just wanted to sort of move it to the side as much as I possibly could. But with that said, combat is inevitable in the game. There are going to be many enemies that you do need to deal with, so luckily there are a few things we can do to make these fights a lot more pleasant. The first thing is the drone module that we get right at the start of the game. The one we start with is called Distraction, and as the name pretty much describes, this will allow you to distract or stun an enemy essentially until they take the next hit. Other than the obvious thing of using this is pretty much just stunning the enemy while you deal with the ball they summon, which you have to destroy before actually taking out the enemy. Another great use for distraction is if you manage to see an enemy before they see you, if they don't actually notice you, they don't go into this immortality field where they summon the ball. So if you do manage to stun them before they do that, you actually have a chance to one-shot them before they get a chance to summon the ball if you are powerful enough. So it saves a bunch of time because there's nothing more annoying than finding an enemy, waiting for them to summon the ball, and then when you destroy the ball, they get this immortality field for a few more seconds, and then you can finally defeat the enemy. So if you manage to skip all of that every now and then, it's definitely a plus. Unfortunately, that's not always going to be the case, so another great use for distraction is once they already do summon the colored ball that you need to destroy, if you stun it and then just hit it, you're pretty much wasting it because it's only stunned until it takes the next hit. So the best thing you can do while they're distracted, while they're still stunned, is hold down the triangle button for a heavy attack as long as you can, and then hit them with one massive attack before they get a chance to move again. Another essential aspect of the combat in this game is the healing pose. This is this white ring that forms around you at the end of your combos, that if you press it as soon as it materializes, you'll be allowed to recover a certain amount of health and stamina. And while it can be a little bit hard to get the grasp of at the beginning, a tip that definitely helped me out at the start is instead of looking at the ring, if you sort of keep one eye on the health bar, the chunk of the health and stamina bar you're going to recover actually turns white as well. And it's a lot easier to just press R1 when you see that chunk of health bar turn white than it is to try and time the ring. The ring gets quite a bit easier once you get used to it, but just at the start, I recommend just keeping you on the health bar instead. Also, try to stay in the habit of using the healing pulse even if you do have full health, as you can also use it to recover your stamina, which in this game is pretty much essential. If you do run out of stamina in the middle of a fight on the harder difficulties, you are done. Like, there's just no coming back from that. Also, around the world, other than the mysteries, which are the main sort of secrets around each area, there's going to be things called good deeds. These are essentially side quests by helping out certain NPCs. It's important to note though that some of these are actually time locked, so if you do progress too far through the story, some of these will become missable or automatically fail. So it's important to check back in previous areas every time you clear through a new path or find some new items, maybe some new clues that could help you out with the previous quest. But it can be helpful to write down maybe some of the good deeds of when you find an NPC that's looking for something, you can write down what the item is they're looking for and where that NPC actually was. Because sometimes you'll go ahead and find the item they're looking for and then not remember who the hell even asked for it. You may feel like completing these good deeds didn't really give you any rewards. Well, the reason for that is because after you complete the good deeds and the time loops, you can go back to the Visa Hills. You will need to have completed the Visa Hills story mission, which is the 3rd region, and talk to Gildas here, and if you mention the good deeds and the time loops to him, he'll give you rewards for each one you complete. So definitely come back here and claim your rewards every so often. Speaking of time loops, I'm sure you've seen these massive black orbs with spikes coming out of them around the areas, and these are the time loops. When we manage to destroy these time loops, it'll stop enemies respawning in that whole region whatsoever. So the way to do this is each time loop is going to have a set amount of guardians. Usually it's going to be anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 guardians around that region. When you get close to these specific enemies, you're going to hear the background music change, like a weird screeching sort of noise. That means there's a guardian close by. You can also get a guardian detector from Gildas if you mention the time loops to him the first time you visit him, which will help you track down these time loop guardians. Once you've defeated all of the time loop guardians in that region, you'll notice that the time loop itself loses its spikes and it will allow you to enter inside the time loop. Once you're inside the time loop, you need to use items called Amina Prisms to completely shut down the time loop. There are a bunch of these hidden all around the world. We have a video showing the location of all 21 of them, I think it is. If you do want to check that out, it's on the channel. Once you do that, after you defeat any enemy in that entire region, they will no longer respawn. That's actually a pretty insane trophy, that is close all the time loops down and then defeat every enemy so there's not a single enemy remaining on the entire game, which is kind of cool. Most of the best loot in the game are going to be hidden inside areas called Vaults of Forbidden Knowledge. Don't worry, we're obviously not going to be spoiling or showing the location of any of them in this video. We do have guides on those if you do wish to see where they are and how to open them. But all I'm going to say is that if you ever come across a door that looks like this, you can see here on screen, this is a Vault of Forbidden Knowledge. Inside here is usually some of the best loot in the game. All I'll say is that they're definitely worth finding and opening. So you may be wondering, how do you actually learn the combinations to open these? Well, the way to learn the combinations is handing in research items to Tanya, which is the NPC that moves into our APC vehicle at the end of the 3rd region, I believe it is. By handing in enough of the research items we find around the world, she will eventually give us the combinations for these Vaults of Forbidden Knowledge. I was thinking of sharing some locations for some really good early game weapons, some glyphs and defensive gear in this video, but honestly, I really just don't want to spoil any of the puzzles for you guys or like locations. I wanted to go into this completely blind and just enjoy the hell out of it like I did. And like I said, we have literally over 100 videos on the channel explaining like tips, locations, puzzles, everything like that is on the channel if you do feel like you need a bit of help. But against my better judgment, I'm actually going to recommend you guys not to bother watching them unless you really, really need to. And I think that's pretty much it, guys. It's been a while since we made one of these tips and tricks videos. I hope there was something here that helped you out in one way or another. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, don't forget that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content coming very soon, and we'll see you next time.